FIA has just dropped a shocking update about Max Verstappen, and it could change everything. New evidence has come to light, and fans are in for a surprise. What does this mean for the reigning champion? Is his position in danger? This bombshell revelation might shake up the F1 world and leave everyone talking. You won't want to miss the details of this stunning turn of events. After an investigation into the Baku Grand Prix, Max Verstappen was given a warning by the race stewards for overtaking during the virtual safety car (VSC) period. Though he avoided penalties this time, Verstappen has been warned that next time could result in harsher consequences. The Azerbaijan Grand Prix ended under VSC conditions after a dramatic crash involving Carlos Sainz and Sergio Perez. Battling for a podium finish on the second-to-last lap, Perez's front wheel made contact with Sainz's Ferrari, causing both cars to hit the barriers and slide into the wall. Race control deployed the VSC after the crash, and Oscar Piastri took the win, followed by Charles Leclerc in second and George Russell in third. Lando Norris and Verstappen finished fourth and fifth, respectively. After crossing the finish line, Verstappen caught up with his good friend and McLaren rival Lando Norris, waving to him as they drove. He also pulled alongside George Russell, giving a thumbs up. However, this move led to Verstappen being cited for overtaking under VSC conditions, a violation that could have severe consequences in future races if repeated. After the checkered flag at the Baku Grand Prix, Max Verstappen, Nico Hülkenberg, Pierre Gasly, and Esteban Ocon received official warnings from the stewards for breaching Article February 1, 12H of the International Sporting Code. The violation occurred when all four drivers overtook other cars while the virtual safety car (VSC) was still active following the crash at Turn 2. The ruling emphasized that overtaking after the checkered flag is generally allowed, but not under specific conditions like a VSC, safety car, or yellow flag. Even though the drivers were aware of the crash location, they couldn't be sure whether emergency personnel or marshals were on the track, making it crucial to proceed cautiously. Warnings and future consequences. The stewards reminded the drivers that, while this instance only resulted in a warning, any future violations could lead to more severe penalties. This is not the first time such a breach has occurred this season. Charles Leclerc committed a similar infraction in an earlier race. The consistent reminders from the stewards signal that stricter enforcement may be on the horizon if drivers fail to adhere to these important safety rules. In Australia, the race stewards acknowledged that similar violations had occurred earlier in the season but were missed at the time. The statement from the stewards emphasized that all drivers, not just Max Verstappen, were being warned. The warning also extends to other competitors, cautioning that future breaches may lead to significant penalties. Alongside Verstappen, Nico Hülkenberg, Esteban Ocon, and Pierre Gasly were also warned for overtaking under the virtual safety car (VSC) after the checkered flag. The stewards made it clear that these warnings are meant to prevent future incidents, as safety concerns during VSC conditions must be taken seriously. Meanwhile, McLaren was penalized for breaching Article January 3, 34 of the FIA Formula One sporting regulations. This rule pertains to team personnel and equipment being in the pit lane during the race. The ruling noted that McLaren's team members and equipment were in the pit lane while other teams were still pitting, creating a potentially unsafe environment. As a result, McLaren was fined $5,000 for the infraction. Did Lando Norris alert the stewards? It appears that Lando Norris may have been the one to alert the stewards about Verstappen's VSC infringement. During a radio message to McLaren, Norris pointed out the potential breach, which led to Verstappen's fifth-place finish in Baku being placed under review. The Dutchman's result is now at risk due to the violation. Sunday's race at Baku ended under the virtual safety car (VSC) after Carlos Sainz and Sergio Perez collided on lap 50 while fighting for third place. Both drivers crashed hard into the Turn 3 barrier, causing significant damage and forcing the race to finish under VSC conditions. Oscar Piastri cruised to victory, followed by Charles Leclerc in second and George Russell in third. Max Verstappen and Lando Norris finished fourth and fifth, respectively. After taking the checkered flag, Verstappen caught up to Norris, waved at him, and later pulled alongside Russell to give him a thumbs up. However, Norris raised concerns over the radio, telling his race engineer Will Joseph, "Max is overtaking everyone. It's still a VSC, right? I don't know if it still matters or not, but it's still a VSC." Shortly after, Verstappen was cited for a potential breach of Article 12, 2.1h of the International Sporting Code, and Article 56.6 of the FIA Formula One sporting regulations, which forbid overtaking under VSC conditions after the checkered flag. Despite the citation, Red Bull team principal Christian Horner was quick to defend Verstappen. "I looked at it," Horner told the media in Baku. He was congratulating the two drivers ahead of him, waving at them as they were coming into the pit lane, going incredibly slowly. Horner expressed surprise that Verstappen could face penalties, as the alleged overtaking incident occurred at very low speeds during a moment of celebration rather than competition. After a challenging race, Max Verstappen finished fifth in Baku, though the Dutchman struggled with grip issues throughout. While running a distant seventh for much of the race, he complained about the lack of traction on both medium and hard tyres. Despite this, his teammate Sergio Perez was contending for a podium and even a possible win before his unfortunate crash with Carlos Sainz. Moreover, Verstappen narrowly avoided a penalty for overtaking under virtual safety car (VSC) conditions after the checkered flag. Red Bull team boss Christian Horner downplayed the incident, mentioning that Verstappen was merely waving at other drivers and wasn't speeding. "We've seen it before with Charles Leclerc in Melbourne," Horner said. "I'd be amazed if there was any issue. He wasn't driving flat out into the pit lane." As a result, the stewards handed Verstappen a warning rather than a penalty, allowing him to maintain his fifth-place finish. Red Bull to investigate Verstappen's grip issues. Christian Horner acknowledged that Verstappen wasn't as comfortable as Perez, despite the seemingly subtle differences between their cars. "There'll be a big post-mortem to understand the variances between the two cars," Horner said. Max Verstappen may have had a difficult race in Baku, but the Dutch driver remained surprisingly optimistic despite finishing fifth. The battle for victory in the Azerbaijan Grand Prix was fought between McLaren, Ferrari and Red Bull, but it was Verstappen's teammate Sergio Perez, not Max, who was in the mix for the win. In what turned out to be an unusually subdued race for Verstappen, he struggled to compete at the front. Unlike last season, when Red Bull's dominant RB19 allowed Verstappen and Perez to secure a comfortable 1-2 finish, this year was different. While Perez battled McLaren's Oscar Piastri and Ferrari for podium positions, Verstappen found himself lagging behind. His main struggles came during the middle phase of the race when he got stuck behind the one-stopping Alex Albon and Lando Norris. Verstappen lost significant time during this period, unable to push past his rivals due to issues with braking and ride comfort. He voiced his frustration over the radio, highlighting that the car didn't feel right. Despite these issues, Verstappen didn't point to the car's overall balance as the main problem. Instead, he revealed that a last-minute setup change made before qualifying was responsible for his lack of pace. The adjustment, intended to improve performance, backfired, leaving the car difficult to drive during the race. "I think we just paid the price with the change that we made into qualifying," Verstappen admitted. "It made it just really difficult to drive." Even with the setup misstep, Verstappen remained upbeat. He acknowledged that while Perez was able to compete for the win, his own performance was hindered by the ill-fated changes. However, Verstappen seemed confident that with the right setup adjustments in future races, he could return to his usual competitive form. This race was a learning experience for the Red Bull driver, who remains focused on solving the issues and moving forward. So what do you think of the major bombshell on Verstappen by the FIA? Comment below and subscribe for more.